Prince Harry was just back in England, reportedly trying to patch things up with King Charles and maybe even the wider royal family. But there's an elephant in the room. Or maybe we could say an elephant left out of the room, Meghan. And it raises the question, what does it really take to become part of a family? So we're all used to seeing this as Meghan and Harry's problem, but it really points to a more universal problem we've all experienced. Every family has stories like this, right? The in-laws who never warm up to the new daughter-in-law or who act cold and judgmental. Or maybe it's the daughter-in-law who enters the family and immediately tries to reshape things. And the fallout doesn't just make for awkward Thanksgiving dinners. It impacts children, marriages, and the future of the family itself. Study after study, really, studies going back to pre-World War II have shown that multi-generational families are the healthiest. Healthiest not just for the individual members, but also for culture and society as a whole. So the royal family is like a mirror for us, granted a really extreme mirror, but it really just shows us something that plays out in our own living rooms. And to see how this works itself out, we're going to look at three very different daughter-in-laws, Princess Diana, Princess Kate, and Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex. We're going to look at the story they tell, what they got right and what they got wrong. Think back to Princess Diana. She entered the royal family at only 19. She was barely more than a girl. She seemed to have this wide open heart, this yearning to be connected. But instead of being nurtured, she was kind of dismissed, and her emotions were dismissed as immaturity or drama. Pause for a second on that word drama and think about that, because I think a lot of times older generations dismiss younger women as being drama. They dismiss sensitivity as drama, or they call honesty drama. And for Diana, that clash with the royal family's stiff upper lip or stoic attitude, well, I think it was brutal. Think about the royal family's point of view. When Queen Elizabeth had been Diana's age, London was getting bombed by the Nazis, and she didn't know if she was going to survive. And then Prince Philip, the Queen's husband, he was whisked out of Greece literally in an orange crate. So I think the royal family, while they were royal, they still had this expectation of stoicism and grit, if you will. They saw Diana as this weeping, lonely young woman, completely unsure of how to handle herself as the Princess of Wales. And from Diana's perspective, she needed one thing to make the whole situation survivable. She needed a strong marriage. And honestly, Charles wasn't there for her. He wasn't her anchor, and he didn't create a bridge for her to his family. And that's exactly where the story tilts from difficult to tragic. Because when that marriage bond is weak, the tensions with the in-laws that are sometimes inevitable, they go from simmering to erupting. And they'll either tear the marriage apart or tear the larger family apart. With Diana, her marriage was torn apart. With Meghan and Harry, so far, what's been torn apart has been the larger family. Queen Elizabeth reportedly died with her family at each other's throats and no longer even on speaking terms with each other. So now compare that story to Kate Middleton's. She married William under the same glare of the press with relentless comparisons to Princess Diana. But her story unfolded differently. And why? Well, I think one reason is at least because William was there for her. They've had a strong marriage. He did build a bridge for her to the royal family. But also, partly, because Kate seemed to understand something. You don't walk into a family and decide to overhaul it or remake it overnight. It's said that Prince Philip once gave Kate a piece of advice when she was new to the royal family. And it was this: don't confuse celebrity with royalty. He reportedly told Kate, if you think the attention is on you personally, you'll end up in trouble. But if you keep your focus on your service and your obligation to the country and to the royal family, things will go right for you. He reminded her that she was not a celebrity. He even gave her the advice that when she was out in public at an event, not to look directly at the camera, but to keep her focus on the person she's talking to and the service she's performing. Honestly, that's wisdom for all of us. If you take the word royal out of it, what's left is some really practical advice. I think his point was this: you're not here to make it all about you. You're here to serve. You're here to represent something bigger. You're here to honor the family that you've joined. And I think Kate seemed to grasp that. She didn't come in with fireworks and demanding all this attention. She seemed to observe, to watch, to be willing to stand back and to not make herself the center of attention, and to learn before she tried to influence. Kate has certainly had influence on the royal family, but she fit herself to the institution before she started trying to change it. And most of all, I think she's carried herself with an attitude of humility, and it's why she's lasted and, honestly, why I think she's so beloved. And if this is resonating with you, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, because we're getting to Meghan and her very different approach to joining the royal family and what it reveals about the power and the danger of bringing individuality to the family. So now we come to Meghan, a completely different personality and a completely different strategy. She walked into the royal family with a really strong sense of self, and that's not wrong. But when individuality runs ahead of humility, conflict becomes inevitable. Instead of adapting to the family's culture, she sometimes mocked it and certainly tried to redefine it. Where Kate had been cautioned to keep her eyes off the camera and the spotlight off herself, Meghan seemed to lean directly into both. And that contrast tells the story, right? One daughter-in-law built trust through patience. The other made herself the story, breached confidences, and ultimately tore the family apart. And here's where the universal principle, what we can take away from the royals' drama and apply it to ourselves, here's where that comes through. Yes, you and your husband are a new family unit, and it's super important for that to be strong. But you're also coming into something new. You didn't build your husband's family, and you don't completely understand it yet. Unless there's abuse or something really deeply wrong, it's probably not wise to barge in and try to start a revolution. Respect should come first. Observation should come first. Learn who they are, learn how they tick before you try to make your mark. And ideally, you learn to love them and you start to see them through eyes of love before you start to try to change things. Meghan's story shows what happens when that step, when that taking time to learn to love them, when that step gets skipped. So here's the principle that ties Diana, Kate, and Meghan together. To thrive in a new family, you need humility. That means respecting your spouse and respecting his family because they were there before you came. Think about it. Your mother-in-law may drive you crazy, but she did raise the man you love and she helped shape him into who he is. You can't and you don't want to erase that culture the minute you walk in. It's wise to sit back, listen, learn, and love, and then you have influence. And look, you already have incredible influence with your husband. And with that influence, you can tear him apart from his family, or you can help him become the man he's meant to be. So treat that incredible power that you have with your husband with wisdom, with patience, and honoring what already exists. Okay, so enough about the royals. Let's talk about how this can practically apply to us and our lives. What does it actually look like? I know over the years I've been an absolutely rotten daughter-in-law at times, and now I'm a mother-in-law, and I'm trying, but I know I've got lots of room for improvement. So here are some tips if you're welcoming a new daughter-in-law or a new sister-in-law. Respect her marriage first. Don't pull your son or your brother back into old family drama. And treat them like an adult, even if they seem young to you. And most importantly, do not give unsolicited advice. Next, assume good intentions. She's likely nervous, not malicious. Include them warmly, but never pressure them. And take their no with grace and not hurt feelings. And maybe most importantly, give it time. Relationships don't happen overnight. On the other hand, if you're the new daughter-in-law or the new sister-in-law entering a family, here's some tips for you. First, prioritize your marriage. That's your anchor. That's your bridge. Second, respect his family. Unless there's clear abuse or serious dysfunction that you and your husband have talked about and decided on before, don't go in and try to overhaul things. Also, look for ways to contribute. I don't know, bring a dish, text a thank you, lend a hand with the kids, or even participate in family traditions you don't necessarily love. My daughter-in-law, Katie, has done an amazing job with this. When we're at a family event and I can't find one of the grandbabies, she's usually sitting on Katie's lap. And lastly, build one-on-one bonds. You don't have to treat the new family as a unit all the time. I don't know, send a text to your mother-in-law, invite a sister-in-law out for coffee. Those kinds of efforts communicate, I see you and I love you and I'm trying. So we've taken a look today at 3 different daughter-in-laws, Diana, Kate, and Meghan, 3 different approaches. Diana's vulnerability was mislabeled as drama. Kate's patience allowed her to thrive. But Meghan's boldness created a terrible clash. 3 different women, 3 different approaches, and 3 different outcomes. And maybe that's the lesson for all of us, whether we're newly joining a family or whether you're an existing member. Remember that it's not all about you or you taking center stage. It's about learning to play your part in something bigger. And that's how families thrive, whether they're royal or just regular. So, thanks for being here. If you're interested in building strong relationships, you might check out our episode called 10 Ways to Heal Your Hurting Relationship. Thanks. See you next time.